I hear them coming near, their heart it beats with fear. They say my name in shame. My words they were abused, my healing they misused, and now I stand accused. They came to light the flame, they came to watch me hang and burn my gifts away. But once the smoke's removed, my body's been abused. My soul is watching you. My sisters, we have come, the old and ancient ones, return to bring anew. We won't go in your flame, no, none of us will hang. Our voices we reclaim. The burned witches come, gather everyone, and hear what we do say.
Welcome to Burnt Witches Season 2, a limited series podcast where history rises from the ashes and comes back to you in a modern way. Here we discuss all things labeled magic, esoteric, spiritual, and the modern word woo. Looking to dispel myths, we will meet brave souls who came here to help, heal, and educate. But first, a step back in time with a few facts. Did you know that Scotland passed the Witchcraft Act in 1563, making the practice of witchcraft a capital offense? Now, this is what led to widespread executions. Scotland had one of the highest rates of execution in Europe, with King James VI, who later became James I of England, becoming obsessed with witchcraft and promoting trials. His book, Demonology, published in 1597, encouraged the persecution of witches, mostly women. And, we highlight on the show a lot of men were persecuted for witchcraft. People always say it's just the women, but the men were affected as well. And that brings us to today's show dedication. As you guys know, I try to find a woman or a man whose story aligns with my guest, and this one does not disappoint. Today, we dedicate our show to Elspeth Rach, a woman who died in Scotland in 1662. She was known for her involvement in local folklore and accused of using witchcraft to harm others. Elspeth's story reflects the blending of folk practices with accusations of witchcraft. Rach was accused during a time in Scotland when the country was gripped by widespread fear and suspicion of witches. Elspeth was a young woman from Orkney Islands, a region with strong traditions in folklore and belief in the supernatural. Now, she claimed to have gained supernatural knowledge and powers after encountering spirits, a quote-unquote fairy queen, and a man who offered her mystical abilities. She said these spirits taught her divine secrets and how to foresee the future. Elspeth was accused of using witchcraft to bewitch people and to manipulate events using her supposed magic powers. She was also suspected of engaging in illicit activities with these spirits, a common theme in witchcraft accusations. Like many others accused of witchcraft, her confession was likely coerced through fear or pressure. Elspeth was executed by strangulation and then burned at the stake in 1662, a fate similar to many women accused in Scotland. Elspeth's case reflects the superstition, fear of the supernatural, and misogyny that fueled the witch trials in Scotland. In 2022, though Elspeth's case was not singled out, the First Minister of Scotland, Nicole Sturgeon, issued a formal apology for the persecution of thousands. And let's face it, guys, the numbers all throughout Europe are actually closer to being the millions. So those, I mean, they throw out 40,000, 60,000. Guys, it was over 200 years. It's closer to millions. The Scottish government publicly acknowledged the wrongful accusations and executions. Elspeth's race shows how women, especially those with knowledge of traditional folk practices, were vulnerable to persecution during this period. And now we shift to today's guest, Mary Jane Brigger, a Celtic shaman, an oracle, seer, and channeler who spent 25 years working in the field of dentistry and office management, but she finally found her way home.
Yep.
Home to the magic and folklore. So welcome, Mary Jane. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I have been really excited about being here today because this is my world. So,
And it's a magical world. I knew I had to pick someone to dedicate the show that worked with the spirits, that worked with the fairies, the land, because we're going to go over to Ireland and Scotland into those. You know what? It's so funny. They're already coming in. Sorry, guys. They're already coming in. Like they're I'm saying like the motherland is what they're calling it.
it is the motherland. That the word mother, that's the truth. That is a lot of where our the divine feminine is.
Yeah. What do you think is so special about that area of the planet that so many I'm getting visions of people traveling there. It was a sought after. People would make pilgrimages to that space. What do you think is so special about that land?
Depends on what period you were talking about as far as people being drawn to it, because the Celts actually began way far away. They were, it was called an Indo-European migration. But actually, when you even look into Celtic music and any of the language, it has a very strong Middle Eastern Arabic tone to it. They literally crossed the continents because they lived off the land. And so what happened is they ended up in what is now called the British Isles, Ireland and so forth. But that's a lot of where our cultures come from for who we are as women. So what is the draw? The draw is the land. The draw is the land, because that is where Celtic culture was all about, as was Native American and many other. In fact, I feel such a kinship with Native Americans, and they do with Celtic work, because we share so much of very similar, if not at times the same history. But the land is truly just and by magic, I mean a lot occurred there centuries before, and we're talking cosmic families that came there. And that's a lot of where the fairies underground are. They actually call it Tuatha Da Danann, and they came to strictly help start civilization in that. But to answer your question is because there is where it was the worship, not the worship. I don't like that word. That's when the mother of the motherland truly can be felt. I think it can be felt anywhere, but there you can actually go the chakras all the way down in Ireland where she is. But it's because they believed it was more of a feminine culture too. This was not cultures that was, men and women. Women fought right beside their men. It was a culture where they worked together, and it was a culture where a woman was not this, and she was like, good, she was badass. And so this, because it was survival too, that it was the ability to be able to truly be one with the land. And so as whenever you're in Ireland, you can truly, or in any of there, you can truly feel that energy coming from the earth and around you. And especially if you do any ceremony or ritual lay on it. And so what's that mean? Why is it sacred? Because that's us.
Yeah.
That's us. We're an essence of that. So it's like when we go back there, as spirit walkers, we can literally walk back into her energy, and you can feel that divineness, that oneness. And you have to go further back before Christianity to really feel the purity of that. So why do people do it? A lot of them are going, like you said, back home. A lot of them are feeling that draw. And when they get there, some go on trips that are just more basic tourist sites and, pubs and whatever. Mine have been like that. I've always went back to the land first. And fortunately, I work with a tour director who takes us off the grid, where we can go to quiet places where no tourists are. And that's where I literally would sit in the ground, no tourists. Our group was small, be off, and I would just sit on the land and you just feel that embrace. So we're all essences of that. And a lot of who we are as women come from that land.
Yeah.
We
I
come
love
from
that.
there. So that is our culture.
I love that you bring up. I was getting a lot of hits as you were talking, but I love that you bring up the quiet, just being in the stillness, because I often do think when people go and they might sign up for a retreat or go for excursions, it's like the kid in a candy jar, right? They want to go and experience and see all of it. And there is an aspect of that, I'm going to call it the inner soul, right? Not the inner child, because the soul is so excited to come back to a place. It's, like, oh, I'm back home. And they get really excited. Yeah. But if we really want to connect in, it is, you need to be quiet and still. And while you were speaking, I literally began to hear this very slow heartbeat, do-dum, 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 from the land. And I would love to get your take on, while we have always had the divine feminine here, she's always been here, but there has been a quickening of the waking of it coming back. And I would love to hear your take on that. Are you feeling the same, as though it's like that pulse is beginning just to race, like move within us?
So when we were talking about, when I was in Ireland, the quiet in the space, that's because we're taken back into the womb of Mother Earth, the womb of her essence. So when I truly began this very mystical journey, and to be honest with you, Celtic shamanism is called seership. So they call it seership, not Celtic, because we're seeing into the different worlds. We're seeing up. We travel into the different worlds and see the pictures. That I began to experience that it was the womb that we're actually going back into within our soul. So when we're connecting to the land of Mother, or connecting to just, even where we're living, we're actually going into the womb. And as we go into the womb, what do we experience first? The darkness, right? But you hear that boom, 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 boom. And as a newborn child growing in there, what do you hear first? You hear the mother's heartbeat. Yeah. That's who comforts and holds you until it's time for birth. So when you look back, so you literally are in this womb. And if you look at wherever you are, this womb, and Ireland is cradled by the Atlantic Ocean. So we have that amniotic, we can kind of be there and we can feel the energy and the magic of the mother, the earth mother connecting back to us. And that's what was taken away from us. That was our culture. That was many cultures who live by the land, because we understood the energy and the spirit of the land. And there was no barriers. There was no real limiting thoughts telling us this was wrong. So the idea to be in the darkness at night and looking at the sky, to embrace this is the Mother Earth. Well, when the church came, instead of seeing the beauty of rebirth and transformation in this darkness, we were told it was evil. So all rebirth and transformation was taken away, and all sense of self. So this was a culture. This was more than a culture. It was the essence of who we are as men and women. And even if you don't have any Celtic heritage in you, I mean, I admit I have a lot, but I know people who don't. And what is it that draws us back? It's the divine feminine. And what is that? Well, we're very intuitive. Energy. Feminine energy is intuitive. Feminine energy has the ability to see. So we have these wonderful gifts, but we're also relational. We nurture each other. We're community together. And we're also all about development of the self. And by that, what I call the inner wise woman, we're all about going within, because the answers are here. But you can't control somebody who knows they can depend on themselves and their own gods or goddesses. So that gets taken away by intimidation and fear, as you were speaking earlier about, poor Elspeth.
Yeah.
But we're reclaiming that. We're not learning anything. We're reclaiming, and we're remembering who we are. And my focus is on women. And the reason is we had that taken away from us. We have to know what that feels like, feeling safe, to have the sight, to have the voice of the oracle, to be able to heal without persecution, to be able to walk freely in your own state of being as one with your goddess, with your source, without being condemned. So many of us who are back are those burnt witches, are those persecuted ones. This is our time to step out safely, because we are safe. We're just, not many countries know, but what I'm talking about is here. Well, you'll be surprised how they're rising. But we are now truly safe. Mm-hmm. We have to feel safe to speak our truth. And that's what my Irish grandmothers came back to tell me. We could not express this. But you and your sister, because my sister does this work similar, but she works with animals, is that you're safe. And now we need that contract broken and step into the divine feminine, step into the goddess being embraced and not feared or sneered at. That's still there, but it's not going to change unless we embrace those. And I say the oracle and the seer and the healer within us, because that's a bigger definition of who we are, because that goes back hundreds of years. It doesn't have the baggage that a psychic medium, which we are, would have, or a channeler, which we are, would have. The seer was sought after in the village. The wise woman was looked for. And that's what I'm helping women to do. Remember the wise woman that you are. She was the healer. She was the seer. She was the community gatherer. She was the one who ran groups, so much of who we are today. Last week, the goddesses showed me this huge list of professions. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'm looking at this, and she goes, look at each one. And as I did, she said, do you realize each one of these just a few hundred years ago would have been burned at the stake? Physician, massage therapist, nurse, all your basic, any of your medical people today, your scientists, everything would have been burned and banned.
Mm-hmm.
Look at us today. We're all here. So the next step is to acknowledge those sacred gifts within us and acknowledge that we are more than a judgmental deity on the outside.
Yeah.
Because we carry the balance, not to overthrow. We carry the balance. And so that's the rise of the feminine, what started. And that's what we're all experiencing. Men too.
Yeah. It's the feminine is creation. And in so many of the other stories that this show has been dedicated to, it's men and women, mainly men in this respect, only because during that time men were allowed to become educated in the universities. But for the men specifically, what started out as a seeking of information within the sciences, then that led to wanting to know more about astrology, and then that led to understanding about energy, that led to alchemy, then that led, of course, always, because so many people, the whole journey, then you end up coming back home to you, right? And so then when they had asked all of these questions outward, it always leads them to go, okay, now I want to know about myself inward. And it's when those individuals who had all of the degrees, though they had assumed wealth and power because they were sought after for their knowledge, when they started to look within, that was when all of the persecutions came for them. And I find it so interesting how so many different factions, and I see this, we see this across many cultures, when the people start to become individuals into that soul inner reflection, then that is looked at as a bad thing. They want to completely disconnect that. And I want to add in, even though we're talking about, looking into yourself and understanding as yourself, once you go into that journey, the following after that is in going up into that quantum and realizing that we are all one. So it's just this beautiful, ever winding circle in all reality, and we always come back home. And then where is home? Creation.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it was the seers. I would love to delve in a little bit more. In a prior conversation, Mary Jane, we were talking about the power of language and the energy behind our words, and coming into this shift where we're re-embracing the oracle and the seer versus the lower energy of the psychic medium. I would love, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel those words were created for a reason, to induce this degrading lower viewpoint?
Necessarily. I think it was more a matter of the time, because the language and because Christianity was so strong and still dictating so much. I mean, the spiritualist community and all that, where it began, it began in a church, in a together as a group. So it was out of that. What's the word would we use? Well, the medium. Well, the medium is, that's who what we're doing. So, and the psychic, it's the same thing. So I don't believe that. I just believe it was language that evolved in that time. But as time went on, and then religion demonized it more, and we had to add all the crazy stuff onto it that marginalized and made us so small, that over the years, fortune teller, this, and that, which is ridiculous. And it took away all this sacredness.
Yeah.
This was sacred work. And the early psychic mediums, it was sacred work. they knew what they were tapping into. They still do. They still embrace that. So I'm not saying anything against psychic mediums. It's how I began. It's how I would still be identified if I chose to stay in that box.
Yeah.
Because the energy about the divine feminine right now is that we are stepping into not a box. We're stepping into who we are. And who are we? This beautiful dimensions of many energies that we have the ability, and we remember that we are one with. There's all my channelings, my teachings from the goddess is all that this is not about being outside yourself to speak with spirit.
Yeah.
You are spirit. Your body is a temple. And all you're told is how wrong and awful it is. You are the voice of source, whatever you call it. You're the voice of this cosmos. It is not just for a few other people. You don't have to call in. You just be.
Yeah.
I got that the other day, and I did a journey yesterday, and I got there, and goddess energy can be interesting. They're not always going to do this. No. Why are you asking that question? I need clarification. Well, you know you're that. Well, no, not really. I'm here asking. And it was very interesting during the experience. And suddenly I just felt a hollowing out go within me. And what came back was, now you are the seer. You're here you're asking questions of us. Be the seer. Be the voice. You're still rising out. Be that. And then they showed me how, in a really beautiful way, that when it comes a time to ask questions or wisdom, I literally I can sit into myself and I ask the seer, who is me. But the seer understand, the oracle, the seer, however we wish to express ourselves. We are now reunited and back in relationship. Hear those words, back in relationship with our higher self. And so this is what's happening. We're bringing that energy of all is one, which is balanced, and now we're reuniting. And as we reunite, what happens? That relationship. So this is what I say to anybody. How do I connect? I said, drop that word connect. It's too cold. Foster the relationship. I said, if you had a friend, what do you do? I'm going to connect with you. Well, maybe if I got to pick up something from you or drop something off. But I would like a relationship of knowing you. I want to know where is our energies. And I'm going to connect. That's cold. So when you're doing that reunion, and the words that I'm always get is reunion, relationship, remember, resurrect. We're not more than restore, recalibrate, renew. You notice it's re. We're just bringing everything back. I have experienced so many physical healings from doing this, by embracing the goddess within me, by reunion, which I call all this is. When I go deep, I go to all that is, because it's everything in one. But I go through my divine feminine. And why do I say inner wise women? because we still, as a society and as women, are still told to look on our deities as masculine, as one. Well, we have, we have feminine creatures, and I know you do. You got something that you were told to believe, and they're not very powerful. You really want to experience feminine energy, then you will truly experience unconditional love in a way that is indescribable. So it's not this goddess, this goddess, this goddess, that god, it's me. Because I am that collective. I'm down here to express it and to experience it in this way. But those of us who are back now, we are the witches. We are the burnt witches. And I had something today while I was getting ready for this podcast. I heard witch is a verb. You direct energy. Wise woman is a being. And for all the years I've been saying this, it made sense. She said, once you understand that a witch directs energy, again, I'm a witch, I'll say so, but I'm not Disney's witches. Yeah. And I do not endorse, or I stay away from anyone who comes at me with a pointy hat or and this and that, because that's exactly what they want you to believe. Yeah. When you understand the beauty of the goddess and the energy of the goddess and the blending and the relationship that she has with all that is, what an insult to us as people and as the feminine. So we're bringing that back, but instead of bringing it back in doing, which is that strong masculine energy, we're doing it in being. We're just stepping back into who we are, and we're actually bringing in way before Christianity began. We're bringing in the old beliefs. We're bringing in the old ways. Yeah. It's far different than trying to work through the Christianity that has taken away the old way systems.
Yeah. The Magdalene energy and the Sophia and the Sarah line, that has been coming in so strongly for me lately. And I was working with a group of people to do toning and frequency singing with people. And the Magdalene energy wanted to come forward to help do a clearing. But it's so interesting because they actually don't clear. What they always bring forward is a remembrance. And I'm doing this with my hand because
That's what I've done.
Yeah, they come in and they really like to work with people's feet, like get grounded, like this is who you are, this is what you like have been before. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. We will work with you. We will work through you. And and so I do that in light language, but that's what they're saying in my head. But they always come in a circle.
Yep.
And they took me underground once, and I know that I was over in the British Isles. I was over in those lands, and it was a cobblestone wall, and it had like moss growing down it, and all of these women were in a circle with their backs up against the walls, and they were essentially bringing in all the energy that I was working with coming in, and it is a celebration of that energy, and it's an excitement of like, come back home to who you are. Remember. And they love to remember how we need to be so connected with this planet and with this land. A lot of when you work with the cosmos, a lot of people just think up and out. But when you become really grounded, it's like understanding what a beautiful birthright we have to be in connection and to connect in there. And then when that is very solid and we're literally walking in union with this pulse of our planet, then we can expand into those cosmos, into those other dimensions, and then from there we pull forward aspects of who we are.
Yep. Yes. And I like what you just said, because so many still, you say Magdalene energy, or I said the Mary Magdalene. Immediately we go to the Christianized version,
Yeah.
which we're not going there, but because we all know what it is. It's a collective.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sisterhood. And I was shown that in a vision recently. I felt like I had to go somewhere else. They're like, where are you going? And I'm like, well, no. The sacred sisterhood is the Magdalene energy. It's all sacred, feminine, divine. We are all one. It is expressed for different reasons, different dimensions, and so forth. But it's still all Divine Mother.
Yeah.
And so I once on a podcast, someone had said, and what do you mean by mother? It made me step back and think maybe somebody doesn't have, a good relationship with mothers, and that happens. And so I would just say love. It's
Yeah.
divine love,
Mm-hmm.
because love, or it's divine feminine, because feminine energy I'm stressing here, is softer, is nurturing, is love, is a creatress. But she also, if she has to step up, she will.
Mm-hmm.
When you work with some of these goddesses, some of them are there strictly to help you walk through the important journey of going through the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have your dark goddesses. No, they're not, screaming and coming at you. They're really reflections of what your own psyche is at that time.
Yeah.
And I've been experiencing one in the Morrigan. I'm like, yeah, why am I feeling this way? I'm like, oh, you're teaching me that aspect of me and how to handle that anger and that rage. And so when you look into it, she represents that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go deeper, it's all about transformation. When you work with the energy of the goddess and the mothers and the divine mother, you're working with personal transformation. You're working with rebirth. That's, probably one of the saddest things that ever happened over time was demonizing the cauldron. Because the cauldron has, way before Christianity, been a symbol of the divine womb. It's always been a feminine symbol. And because why? Because it's round, right? But it's actually a divine symbol of the womb. And where we've been taught through the chakra system, the the pagan beliefs use the cauldron. There's 3 cauldrons. You have the lower cauldron, the middle cauldron, and the upper cauldron. And where we're working with wheels of energy before, now we're working with cauldrons that are tipped over, pulling out. You're writing it. And it's about a whole state of being that, frankly, I have really preferred working with versus going through each chakra, which is there. And believe me, I will still do it. But when I go to do any inner work, I'll just say, okay, I'm going within my cauldron, and immediately I can feel them. And actually, the first time I ever experienced my inner cauldron, right, physically felt it, was when I was in Lilydale with Lisa Williams' trance course. And she was taking us on a journey, and I literally felt myself leap up off the floor as my cauldron revealed itself to me. It really wasn't until much later I understood what that meant. That we have so many beautiful divine symbols of the earth, the mother of us, that are all in demonization. That's what we're here to do. We're here to reverse that. We're here to bring the old ways back. What they said to me this morning, we're bringing the old ways into the new. meaning not that period in between. It was pre-Christianity, pre-church. And so that's where we're pulling from. And that's why for some of us, it hits home so much. Capital Home. It hits because the feminine is the heart, the mother is the heart. So that's why our heart is opening. That's the divine mother energy within all of us, male and female. That's what's opening. It's what? Our emotions. Everybody's emotional right now. Yeah, for a reason. There's been a heart opening. Some don't know what to do with it. Some do. We're here to help. Why? We're the balancers.
Yeah.
And that's what the witchcraft and the work that we're talking about, that's what it was all about. It was about healing the person. Truly, it was about not more than the person. You had to hear the soul. Years ago, when I was studying shamanism, before I got into the Celtic, one of the biggest takeaways I took from that, and I've used that ever since, was whenever someone who is ill is taken to their shaman, and they go through their litany of physical ailments, and they go, and then they say, okay, first, tell me about your spirit. Because now we're knowing, we have the scientific background and the research to prove now, it's all about the subconscious traumas and wounds from lifetimes that we've brought into this. So you can see the grandeur of what the divine feminine is. It's not just us stepping into our power more. It's all beings. And nature's reaching back. I live in nature. I have a little cabin in the woods. Come on. I live where, transportation is Amish around here. So I have horses and buggies all day. Point being, it's some of us have to be in this energy to remember who we are to be able to bring it back out to the world.
Yeah.
So what's going on now is we're remembering the wise woman. We're remembering the oracle. We're mystics. Don't forget that. We are modern day mystics. We live our mysticism. And our mysticism is however we express that deep sacred relationship with all that is, which is us. Love yourself. Yeah, love yourself because you're loving everything that is about you.
Yeah.
And then as you do that, then this creates a whole different energy. That the more we do this and recognize it, the more it goes out there and shifts dimensions too.
Yeah. When you were speaking about how is your spirit, and we're talking about it is how the spirit can create dis-ease in the body, especially if we're working off some karmic patterns.
It's a disconnection from your spirit that causes disease.
Yeah. Yep. I had endometriosis, and it's actually very interesting. I know so many women who are seers, oracles, healers, and I'm shocked at how many have had severe issues with either endometriosis, PCOS. So many seers that I know have had hysterectomies.
Yep.
I myself has had a hysterectomy due to endometriosis. And a year after I had that surgery, all of my pain came right back, just came roaring right back. So I went and I did a hypnosis session. I went and did a journey because, again, understanding that, all right, this is coming back in. I didn't learn where it came from. And I immediately went to a time in a past life where I wanted to be with somebody and he with me, and it was over in Europe. And that was when, they were arranged marriages in certain social classes. And we knew the only way that we could be together was to remove the arranged marriage. And so I actually poisoned his wife to be with her. And so in my session, all of a sudden this little 4-year-old girl showed up, and she looked at me and she said, "You took away my womb." And she said, "So So I took away yours. Now, granted, I have children, so, but that was the karmic energy that I was still carrying there. And so
Yeah.
she and I worked together through forgiveness and
Mhm.
release. And following that session, have also done sound and frequency healing, but following that session, I have been completely 100% pain free for over 6 years
Yes.
because we released that. We got to the root of it.
I noticed years ago when I was a Reiki practitioner years ago, and I would go to different hospitals and hospice situations. I, everyone had ovarian cancer. Every woman. It was got to the point I'm like, for some, the actual passing away was made from lung cancer because it spread, but the root was always was ovarian cancer or uterine cancer. And that's when I began to realize what is happening with us, that we cannot release the shame. We cannot release what it is we're holding there or release the guilt. And over time, everything you just said, I've noticed the same thing, even up until now, even within fertility and so forth. Um, a lot of us, we've just brought so much back here. I also think the imprint that we brought back was shame and guilt. Which, how can you express that? That's where we express ourselves. This is where we create ourselves. If we don't feel free to create and be ourselves, the energy is going to be stuck. The story's not going to move. Which was interesting as all this energy was picking up and rising. I went from doing so much lower chakra work, now I would say lower cauldron work, to everybody's crown is being activated. I never moved down. So it's interesting when I do healing work now, which is different. I do channeled healing work. We're right back here, but we're right back in the womb. Because now I don't think it's so much physically, because like you said, so many of it is hysterectomies. But that energy is still there.
Oh, yeah.
And that womb is creating. They're reminding you, you're still the creator.
Yeah.
So we're activating this. So that's why I've always loved what I say in my cauldron work, because I relate to that more because it's a womb. My heart chakra is a womb. So as we progress, this is a womb. But by the time in Celtic work, it's called the Caradwen, the goddess Caradwen, with her cauldron, this is the womb. But as it's called, we do a warming. So what? If you're going to make something, you're going to make some food or whatever, you put the ingredients in what? You put it on a fire, you got to heat it up. But what happens is as it gets warm, then a steam will come up, right? And in Celtic work, it says 3 rays or 3 lines of streams. But what you're looking for is what happens here with this upper cauldron. It's called your Alwyn, and in Irish is Imbas, means your enlightenment. So the steam that comes out is actually the wisdom that you have gained from within your body. And as it reaches your heart is opening up to receive that wisdom. Now it's time to express it. And so it comes up and you allow your Alwyn, which can't, it's whatever the wisdom or knowledge or whatever was brought to you is that divine message to be. So as you see, this is something that has been a beautiful expression for people. And yes, I will do my spells. And by spells, I mean, I will do cauldron work, but each one will and I use big bowls. And each one, I'll put something in it and it represents. And then the middle cauldron, which I do, I have a big one, that is going to be the result. And it's beautiful. It's just as well as when I was Catholic and I lit my votive candles,
Yeah.
I had my Mary altars and everything. I'm doing the same thing. I'm just using different instruments. I'm using that still sense of awe and love.
Mhm.
So when you want to control somebody, you take away everything you love, and that makes you. And what are you left with?
Yep.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And you're controllable.
I've the my guides work in metaphors a lot when receiving messages, and I have received it so many times for different clients. They always give me the metaphor of the kitchen, especially when we're working with women in particular who are wanting to see changes in their life, and the messages always will go into the kitchen. What ingredients do you want to put in? We're going to go in there, we're going to bake something. What ingredients do you want in your life? And knowing that they have the ability, they have the authority to go and pull in and create what they want to see, the outcome of all of this. And every time you bring up the cauldron, that's what it is. It's a recipe of what you want, and then but it has to come from your energy. Your energy is spinning it, and I want to chuckle because my youngest daughter is incredible at manifesting, and to the point where we've had some conversations of like we really have to focus because has very strong abilities, very, very strong abilities. And so she was talking about some things going on in her personal life with friends and relationships and everything. And my higher self gave me the image of her sitting, and it's so funny because I got the number 18. She had 18 cauldrons all around her, and she's just spinning this and then spinning this and then spinning this, because she's the vault, right? She just attracts all of her friends. They come in and they share this is what's going on in my life, and this is what's going on in my life, and they all just dump and share. And she's just sitting there just spinning, just spinning, just spinning, and trying to make the outcome that she wants to see for all those. And so it was essentially I had a mother-daughter chat.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I love that. I love that.
but even with that, as in energy, I love, because when you're, especially with the crown and the heart, when you're working in those chakra systems, you're spinning it. You're to get it open and to either remove or bring in, you're spinning it and you're opening it, and you want it to get to bigger and to get wider. And then my higher self works with light language, and then we're bringing that in because that's bringing in healing and shifts and everything. So I love the cauldron imagery because it makes sense. We're already doing it.
And I love the goddess of Caradwyn with it, because when you read her mythology and you read the legend of how the cauldron and all this occurred, I kept wondering when I first read it, why did I like it so much? Because in some respects it was like, oh, and then I realized, oh, that's me. Because it's about transformation. It's about achieving wisdom. And from Caradwyn came the Merlin. And so there's such a beautiful weaving, and this is where the importance of the Druids is. We I don't watch anything on History Channel or anything more about the Druids because I know a Druid. I'm taking a group to Ireland next year to be taught by Druids on Druid healing soil, and what I have learned, and I've gone beyond the Christianized description of it, is they they were the orators. It was all oral history. They sang it, but understand that we can't conceive that there was a time where it wasn't just sitting in the woods and all the time. These were scholars.
Yeah.
There were female ones too. These were scholars. They ran universities.
Yes.
They had a society there that was based on knowledge and wisdom. And they also taught the importance of bringing that into you and recognizing that, because it was the voice that was important, because you had to tell the story. It was the seer. You had to see it happening. And so as you are learning everything, how do you envision this? I mean, this is how, to do work now. How do you see this? And sometimes, oh, I see it this way. No, how do you see it? And you take them down deeper. How do you see this? Okay, then we have to bring out how do you express it? And how we do either one is why we are healers. The goddess told me, she says, first you see, then you voice, and both together makes you the healer. Because you need this and this to be able, and this. And I call it the heart. Because once you have that, you have the heart. But the Druids were the ones who taught us this. They weren't. Was there probably sacrifice? Yeah, because back then they did. But with the Druids I've worked with, the emphasis of them more, we were scholars. They just chose something. Like one Druid told me, she said, believe me, we had our bad bunch. And we still have this today. But the Druids were actually our early scholars, professors. They were our wisdom keepers. There's who we went to. It took years to be a Druid. Because it's like anything within that you want to be master of. You're never a master. Because every time you reach it, you start over with something else. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Druids were. So they are the wisdom and the gatekeepers. They hold all this about the before Christianity, when we were free to truly, without fear or the limiting belief of saying, oh, don't do that, that's wrong, to talk to a tree. Druids are always associated with trees. Why? Because of the living source that they are. So when you study Druidism and you go way back, and believe me, because of an oral tradition, there's not much written down. And you have to make sure that what's written down wasn't by the monks who are going to take those stories to make it fit into a biblical story. You want to go further back, and that's why it's wonderful that so many of us now are being taken beyond to go back into those lives of the Druids, to go back and experience them through our channelings, through our journeys and what we're doing, because that oral tradition will come to us. And so that's who we're being called to be today as modern Druids. You tone, you sing, that's a Druid. They brought everything forth. That's how the Druids were the reason we have a history, because they traveled was the only way you did. They sung it, right? What do we relate to today? A good song, right? And how it teaches, and that's what they did. Yeah. And then they were healers with that. So and there were Druidists. There were both. There wasn't no this, and that. And so, you really want to go far back, Joseph, Arimathea was a Druid. So so now we get into Avalon, and we're remembering Avalon. Not as the romantic and this and that. Yeah, it's fun. But why did so many of us read Mist of Avalon? Because it woke us up. Yeah. We remembered. That's why we read it 4 times or something. And each time we remembered who we were. And Avalon, whether it was a physical place or not, is not important. Whenever I do a journey, a Celtic journey, I go back to Avalon. I sail on my boat. I part the mist. And I'm always told, where am I going? Because I allow them to direct me. We're going to the Isle of Women. And when I boat there, it's Avalon. And then that's where I meet these incredible goddesses, but I know they're one. Mm-hmm. And so Avalon is also a place within us. It's us remembering the high priestess that we are. I'm not going to say was, that we are. We're remembering our priestess energy. We're remembering the high priestess. We're remembering the lady who represented the divine mother. They called her the lady moon. So much was demonized. That was our womanhood. That was our energy. So when we go to Avalon, we're truly remembering the divine feminine and a highly evolved energy. Mm-hmm. of the divine feminine. And when we do that, your abilities are going to be even stronger. You know, if you're a medium and you work with bringing messages from loved ones, when you go to Avalon and when you allow the evolving of your own gifts to channel, I don't bring in loved ones here. I bring in their ascendant loved ones. So if it's felt that that a loved one needs to come in on this reading, they'll talk about it first, and then they'll say they'll come in. But within my channelings, it's not the still earthbound one, because we keep loved ones earthbound because we're just in deep grief. We bring in the ascendant ones, and it's a totally different message. You don't need the evidence, and is it your birthday? Is it this? They're bringing in, knowing it's you, the divine message that is now coming through them. It's a whole different experience, because now with the divine feminine and working back with the heart and the goddess, we're now here to do soul work. And soul work is to be experienced, and soul work is where you're going to experience, feel, and be what we call the afterlife, but the Celtics say the other world. That is the proof. Not that it's physically shown to you because now you know that someone from beyond talked to you. No, you live it. Mm-hmm. You can feel that. And that's when you become the spirit walker. You become the spirit talker, because you're going between worlds. Whenever I go to do any type of personal healing and everything, this is how the energy goes on me. Like a helix.
You know what, Mary Jane? So when I stepped in doing my healing work to the ancient ways that I have done before, because I remembered them, that is when I began to do that on the body. As I do the helix on them, going up and down, and just was naturally led, knowing it was from my higher self stepping forward. And as I embodied that more and stepping into that, my physical self actually began to change. And I actually looked down and my hands looked different, and I had this long white hair that went down past my waist. And so it's stepping into this place of, a lot of people are conditioned, well, where did you get the information from? Who trained you? Where did that come from? I myself have been actively moving into, for the past over a year, from myself. It's me remembering. This is, yep. And I am going to probably claim it. This druid sense of myself coming forward is ready to channel through, and I'm actively working on a whole new way of doing healing. I'm bringing that back in, because I had been trained in Reiki and I'd been doing that, and it just didn't resonate. And I've been, I love to teach, and it finally came in from my higher self. This is going to drop in for you, and then that is what you will be teaching.
Yes, it's all channeled now, and because it's about the soul. Mm-hmm. Now, we still need people who can bring loved ones in for people in grief, or try to bring some who need that proof. And so bless them in that. And when there are times I do it too. But I'll be honest with you, it's the more the clients I get want soul work. The first question, what is my purpose? Well, you poor thing, you've never been given a chance to understand what that means. Yeah. Well, where do I find guidance here? And then you bring them back home. You bring them back home. I do, a couple years ago, it was quite beautiful how it happened. But I was given 3 sacred keys. And I'm like, what's this? And they said, well, the first key is used to attune to your spirit. And I'm like, attune? I thought I just called, no. Tune in to the energy. So I started doing that, a whole different experience. I said, tune. And so I had sacred circles, Sophia circles here. So I would teach them how to tune. So as I'm doing this, is because it's like tuning in.
The
So as
radio.
you tune in, yes, you tune into, and I tune into your inner wise woman. We're going to stick with that inner wise woman because that's who's stepping forward. And as you begin, so as that reunion begins, that inner wise woman is your higher self. It's another form of your higher. And so as you feel that, then when you're ready, the second key is brought forward. And I say we open the portals. Opens at a portal, and then you feel this ignition. For some, it's an initiation. The 3 keys are an initiation journey, but it's ignition, and they'll say, feel the passion of who you are. Feel the passion of the inner wise woman you just tuned into. Allow to go. Feel it. Feel that light go up, and you'll see bodies go like this. And I said, allow that passion. And I said, allow that ancient wisdom that you are. Allow that ageless knowledge to now come through you. Can you feel it? Feel your crown chakra opening, but feel your whole body being alive with who you are. Can you feel that? Can you see it? Can you feel? However, and then the third portal we use the key to open is now you become her. Now you become that inner wise woman. You become the reunion, the sacred reunion of your higher self in you. So it's not anymore about doing the work anymore. It's about, we did it. It's about being in a state of being, capital B, capital E. We're becoming, but it's also about living in that state of being. So we're a little out of sync with some things because people are like, well, I'm doing all the work. And I said, because you're not being able to reunite with yourself. You spend too much time going with the trauma thing and this, but you're not getting a resolution. You've got to create that sacred union, that divine relationship, and it's got to be fostered with you, which is now embodying all that makes you and all the spirits that make up you. I say whoever comes to speak to me is an essence of myself in another dimension, in another evolved way.
Yeah.
And so you start to realize this is what they mean, think big and think great of yourself, because you're an expression of the mother down here. You're the expression of the creator, whatever makes you feel that. And when you walk in that state of being, things change. I mean, I always feel it, and my heart is this big. It always feels that big because it's open out. But I also, because I've stepped into my being and I live it, I don't worry about being open because I am my own power.
Yeah.
So if I don't feel good, believe me, I'm not going somewhere. But that's what we are women are experiencing. And so are men. It's so men. It's the heart opening, but it's all about being, and that's what we're doing, Abby. Our work is we have remembered, we have welcomed ourselves back in, and we're now raising these not more in gifts. We all have it. We're raising our wisdom and being to such that you can talk to all elements of the universe. We go deeper into what could be an issue. We have the ability to just travel like we would do on a journey, or I've done all kinds of things, but it's a mystical journey.
Yeah.
And so we have the ability to travel worlds now that we have to give ourselves permission for. When I first started really going deeper into this, I was in a deep journey, and I came in front of the she's called the Kaya, and she's the goddess that Irish, they go by the seasons of the year, not that so much the directions, it's the season. So she represents winter. And as she was standing there, and I said I couldn't move forward, and I said, "Why?" She says, "Not until you." And I saw this. Not until you silence those church fathers behind you.
Oh.
And I went, I thought I did. You cannot step forward until you silence their voices. And then it clicked. I was still holding guilt and shame that I should not be stepping into myself, that there wasn't something greater. And she says, silence them. It had to be my power
Mm-hmm.
before coming here. Said a power animal after him. So it was, shaman taught me that. Well, if you can't do it, send your power animal, take care of it. And all of a sudden I felt free. And then everything, the information and the experience proceeded. And I came back different. Now, someone else might be offended by this and that, but I don't belong in this program, because this is our freedom. And we can't be that until we start to be
Yeah.
that freedom. And it's about us. And you and I, Abby, and so many of our community, we're all a web together.
Mm-hmm.
We find each other, don't we?
Always.
If someone says, my favorite is the closet witch. Oh yeah, I'm a witch. I go, no, you're not. Number one, you wouldn't act that way.
Yeah.
And number two, but if you say, oh yeah, I feel the witch, and I says, well, tell me what it feels like. She's talking about her own self, or the healer within her, or the oracle that I said, you have permission outside here. What will people think? I said, what do you think about yourself? What's more important? And that has to be rewired.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rewiring. And for many, it's very difficult at first, very difficult. But now there's enough of yous and me's and so many out there saying, there's the soul work. That's why we have these wonderful podcasts. Here's the soul work. Here's how we can get you started.
Yeah.
Because it's about the soul. It's not about other people's opinions anymore. It's about your soul.
Yeah. I love that. I named this podcast Burnt Witches purposefully.
Love that. Yep.
Purposefully.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the responses that I've received from it are always very interesting, because just the title alone, Burnt Witches, it shifts. You get a reaction from it.
Oh yeah.
And
Um,
even some guests I've had on the show, they were almost hesitant to come on, because they're like, "Why is it labeled that? What are you doing?"
yeah.
And I love that it's named that, because it does it tends
It's
up.
right here. It takes you right there. And that's part of what I'm resolving in this lifetime is my rage and anger
Mhm,
at being silenced so violently
mhm.
in
Yeah,
my life. And, anybody who's done Reiki over the years, how many did we have on our tables with ropes around their necks? I have spent more time taking ropes energetically off women's necks. Had
mhm.
one that took it off, and she had gone into a deep trance, took it off, and she went like that. And I kept going. And that's happened more than once. You'll see a shifting because you had to even go in and get the fibers.
Yeah,
That's how deep these are, especially if it's lifetime. So you came in with that news still on your neck.
yeah,
Maybe many of the babies coming in with the umbilical cord around their neck. It's still an implant. There's so many things that we can look at, but where we're at now is not so much, let's go backwards and talk about it.
mhm.
What it's about now is, yeah, that's me. And as we talk about what we're saying, we can see how in a modern day life, we can live that free woman again,
Yeah.
that free wise woman. We can be her.
Hmm. It always makes me chuckle a little bit because, I do have memories. I was persecuted more than one lifetime, but it makes me laugh because, like, I'm still standing. It didn't it didn't
Yep,
work.
did work. I'm back.
Here I am running my mouth again.
What's interesting is how, as you recognize yourself as the burnt witch,
Hmm.
you start to recognize who were the ones lighting the fire.
Yes. Hmm.
Or you'll start to see relationships that, why do they want to help me so much? I'm like, oh, because you were the one who condemned them. And it's beautiful. It's not like, or it's like, no, we're here to make this up. And believe me, I had a past life experience where we brought back and I saw everybody in my life who did this. Instead of anger, it healed me
Yeah.
because we were reaching out to each other.
Yeah.
And those are the ones who are my biggest supporters for why I work.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
That is the beauty.
So yeah, it's about soul work, everybody. It's really about allowing the world of spirit, the different um to now be you. Not be afraid to embrace it. And if it's judging you, you got the wrong spirit.
Yeah.
Believe me, they'll correct you and they'll set you straight. They'll never judge you.
Never. So we're getting towards the end of our show. I would just love to take this moment. Is there anything that if one could step forward, is there any type of a message that you would like to share with the audience at home?
Wow, we've been talking so much about it. You know what? What I'm going to say is this is what you're safe. You don't understand what is happening is you are safe to be the wise woman. You are safe to be the witch. Because in the world of spirit, she is held above all. She is the one who holds the love for those she takes care of. You are a highly evolved woman. You are part of the divine feminine of love. You are free to express your voice as the healer. You are free to say, I have a voice of spirit to express messages of love and guidance that are waiting to be heard. I have the sight to see the magnificence of you because I can see the magnificence of me. You mirror me. You truly complete me. You're safe to say that. You are safe to be. You are now safe to be the woman you came here to. And the more you be her, the more those around you will also step into their own state of being. And so be it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary Jane. I really truly appreciate that. Um, I'm gonna do a little druid singing, if that's okay. Since you shared your beautiful gift and did a little channeling, they've been kind of firing me up for oh,
Just show up for sure.
so I'm just gonna do just a quick little dip, getting into that and getting into that energy. Mia no
no, yeah, oh, yeah, no, yeah, ne, oh, ro, yeah, no, yeah, ne, oh, ma, yeah, ne, yeah, no, so ya ne ya ne ya no ro ya ne ya no ya ne ya no mo se ne ho oh ne ro ne ya ne oh zero ne cross ne ane ane oh ane brachia so no krok de isene moko sene braka iono se krishina mokena unahiana sina krosino kuno sene.
I am burnt red.
They're actually very playful. That was very playful energy. They were just, they showed me just walking along a road, and it was just something that they would sing together. So,
And that's who they are. And that's the essence of you expressing yourself in as the Druidess, as in this time. And if anyone would like to experience this in person, I invite you to go to Ireland with me, where we are going to one of the strongest energy vortexes of the world, Southwest Ireland, where the soul essence of the Divine Mother lives. We are going to the land of a practicing Druid. She has a self-sustaining farm and a small one in place where we are going to do all the work we were just talking about and even more. Where you're going to truly understand what an Irish fairy is. It is not what you think, because this Druid, she is actually a descendant of the Tuatha De Danann, which is amazing. A lot of them are. So if you would like to go to Ireland, learn how to experience this and do it yourself, and then later go out to sacred sites and to bring what you just learned and what you just remembered, then join me with Ireland next year. And you can find that information on my website at maryjanebrigger.com. Because this is something we're actually working with the Druids and the spirits of the land and the goddess. And there's going to be some Avalon and some cosmic work too.
thank you. I highly, highly recommend anyone listening go with Mary Jane. It is the stepping in true authenticity and paying proper honor and acknowledgement to those energies. So if you are feeling called, please, please, please sign up. I know it's going to be an incredible experience, Mary Jane. And for anyone down below, Mary Jane's website, the link will be there. So even if you can't make it to Ireland, you can book a session with Mary Jane. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
Just my deepest gratitude, and also thank you for hearing the boys sing again. It was, yeah, it truly, yeah, it was a homecoming. It was so beautiful to hear. And those are some of the things we're also going to learn how to chant with the Druids. And it's as anyone can see, it's different. And what a blessing. Thank you for that. That was a real treat. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for that.
so welcome. You're so welcome. Sometimes it's hard to push it off because they've been wanting to come through.
Yeah, you can't say no.
All right, I know.
I've learned that.
Now I can go about my day now that I've
There you
gotten.
go.
Well, thank you so much. As always, I like to end the show with this poem that came through. The ashes going higher, the smoke filling the sky. Oh, you didn't see my ancestors coming for me behind. As you light the flame of fear, burning away the inner voice rumbling near. Oh, you thought turning us to dust. We lay in the ground burying your lust. But a fire burns in our blood, memories drum through our veins. We are the burnt witches returned, the ones you thought you burned away. But our voices rise together in echo from a deep place you know. Our hearts, they do not tremble. We've come to awaken and help you grow. Thank you, Mary.
So be it. Thank you, Abby.
Thanks. All right. See you guys in the next episode. Be sure to hit like and subscribe to continue to watch season 2 of Burnt Witches.